Welcome to the board meeting for the California High-Speed Rail Authority for July the 10th. We're going to call the meeting to order, and before we ask the secretary to call the roll, I want to welcome Assembly Member Juan Carrillo. Welcome to the board. He joins us as an ad hoc member appointed by the speaker, and we're very happy to have you here. And I think those of you who have followed this project for a number of years are very familiar with Mr. Carrillo and his past life in Palmdale, planning director for the city of Palmdale, a strong supporter for this project forever, and somebody we could always talk to in Palmdale and rely upon for whatever assistance and information and knowledge. So welcome. We couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Really excited to be here, be a partner with you and move forward with what the challenge ahead of us. And looking forward to working with you and everybody. And thank you for the introduction, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Alice, please call the roll.
Director Schenk.
Here.
Chair Richards.
Here.
Director Camacho.
Here.
Vice Chair Miller.
Here.
Director Perea.
Here.
Director Gilmetti.
Present.
Director Escutia. Director Escutia. Director Williams. He's not here. Director Cohen.
Here.
Assemblymember Carrillo. Senator Gonzalez. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can now stand and take the pledge, and if I can ask Assemblymember Carrillo, if you could lead us in the pledge, we'd appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. Please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Under God.
so long that changes.
Liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those of you who suffered through the F&A meeting this morning, and I forgot to give you an opportunity to address the committee, hopefully you are here and you can address us through the board. So with that, if I can ask our secretary to let the people here in the room and those around the state know how they can address the board this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin public comment for the California High-Speed Rail Board of Directors meeting, I would like to review some important information. For members of the public who have joined us in person and wish to provide public comment, you will be called on in the order we received your card. If you are joining the meeting via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand feature located at the bottom of the app. If you are dialing in by phone, pressing the number 2 will raise your hand and put you into the queue. Speakers will be called on in the order their hands are raised. Once you are in the queue and your name is called, please click the prompt on your screen to allow your microphone to be unmuted. If you are joining by phone, we will call on you by your last 4 digits of your phone number. At that point, you will hear a message that your phone is being unmuted. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to speak. I will remind you when we have 15 seconds remaining. When it is your turn to speak, please slowly and clearly say your first and last name, and if applicable, state the organization you are representing. We'll begin with in-person, and our first and only card right now is Mr. David Schwegel.
Excuse me, this is Martha Scutia.
Oh.
Hello, I just want to make sure that you were aware that I was here for purposes of making the quorum.
Thank you, Martha. We've got you down as being present.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for the interruption.
Not at all.
We ready? Good morning, HSR Board. David Schwegel with 5 items. Number 1, Precision Civil Engineering delivered more value to the taxpayers of California than any other consultant on the history of the project through their regional consulting work on Merced to Sacramento. Project manager Ken Vang has gone on to start his own company, Vang Incorporated Consulting Engineers, or VICE. Number 2, I'm in negotiations with Brightline to build Merced to Sacramento. Looping Sacramento into the iOS changes everything. Capital city of the world's 4th largest economy, nation's largest urban infill project, world's first LEED Platinum Arena, the most overlooked city in the nation, the most underrated city in California, fastest growing city in California. Additionally, Sacramento has the second busiest Amtrak station in the state of California behind Los Angeles. It has the most customer service friendly airport in the nation. Here's what this means to investors. The iOS now loops in the capital city of the world's fourth largest economy, goes all the way down to Bakersfield, and the next thing you know, you have bumper to bumper Amtrak throughway bus traffic over the grapevine. Investors say, hey, you have made a good faith effort to get all the way down to Los Angeles. You have stopped short, but we're going to help you get over the mountains and into the LA basin because that means a whole lot for us. Item number 3, call Dee Lee Shoemaker of Microsoft and ask her why Microsoft is investing so much money in Cascadia High-Speed Rail. 4, I have a request into the Attorney General to revoke the business licenses of all of the design builders for starting construction before full right-of-way acquisition, costing the taxpayers $9 billion. And finally, I have not received responses
15
to my
seconds.
voicemails. So you'll get to hear from the office of Joe Patterson as to why no response, and you'll get a second opportunity to provide responses to my voicemails. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to online. Oh, yeah, I'd like the record to recognize that Director Williams has joined us.
Thank you.
Our first up is Rod Davidoff. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, welcome.
As mentioned, my name is Rob Davidoff. I was curious if there was an update coming on the progress of the train set contract issuance. I believe that's been expected, and as I recall, it was discussed in some of the FRA funding letters and the authorities' responses to them. And I think a lot of us following the project as armchair engineers at home are very eager to see those trains contracted, as I'm sure you no doubt are. And we're all eagerly anticipating hearing when there's going to be a decision and what that decision is. So I was just, I guess, unmuting and taking my opportunity to say we're all very eager to hear what comes out of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
We have no others in the queue.
And thank you for the comments. Just for those of you who are here and around, we will be having a closed session after this open section. And I will come back after the closed session to report any actions taken by the board. Moving on to today's agenda, we have item number 1 is the approval of the May 1st, 2025 minutes. Do we have a move approval? We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards.
Yes.
Director Camacho.
One comment before approval. I think I was there for the May board meeting and they have me absent.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Ernie. If we'll make that change, please.
Director Camacho, do you want to
Yes.
vote? Yes. Okay. Vice Chair Miller, Director Perea, Director Gilmetti, Director Scutia. She looks absent. Director Williams,
Staying absent.
Director Cohen.
Yes.
The motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 is the internal audit plan for fiscal year 25-26. Ms. Rivera?
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm Paula Rivera, Chief Auditor for the Authority, and I bring to you today our fiscal year 25-26 audit plan for approval. And a related item number 3 is the results of our internal assessment of our quality assurance and improvement program. The presentation covers both agenda items. Approval is for the audit plan, and The audit standards require that I communicate the results of our internal assessments to the board, and so that is merely an acknowledgement. Next slide, please. I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background about the audit office. We are a team of 13. We report to the board of directors functionally and administratively. Within the authority, we report to the chief executive officer. We are 3 teams. Each team is a manager, a lead, an associate, and an entry-level auditor. Next slide, please. The types of audits that are the components of our audit plan are pre-award reviews. Those are reviews of cost proposals or rate sheets for contracts where the contract was procured based on qualifications. The most qualified team is identified, and then a cost sheet is submitted. Our audit office goes and looks at the elements of that cost sheet. We look at the pay rates, we verify those to payroll. We look at the indirect cost rates and compare those to the federal regulations and the terms of the agreement, which in the case of architectural and engineering contracts are actual cost. So we're looking to verify that the indirect cost rates are based on actual cost. And then we also look at the elements of the fee to be sure it complies with what was in the request for qualifications and other direct costs to be sure that those are in compliance with the state regulations. We also include contract compliance audits as part of our audit services, and those are also known as incurred cost audits. We are looking at the costs that have been billed to the authority and reimbursed by the authority using state and federal funds, and we determine whether or not those costs follow the federal regulations and follow the terms of the agreement. Performance audits are your typical internal audits where we're looking at processes, procedures, internal compliance, economy and efficiency, and those types of internal functions. Next slide, please. We follow 2 kinds of audit standards. They're called the Yellow Book and the Red Book, which unofficially makes us an orange audit shop. Generally accepted governmental auditing standards we use when we're auditing federal funds, and those would be the contract compliance audits. The global internal audit standards are used for the performance audits and our pre-award reviews. Even though the contracts that the pre-awards apply to contain federal funds, the services we're providing are advisory to the contract manager to assist in the negotiation of a fair and reasonable price, which is what the state and federal law requires. Both sets of standards were revised in early 2024. The internal audit standards were effective in January 24, and the Yellow Book standards are effective in December. The primary changes were related to external quality assessments and internal quality assessments, the audit committee reporting, and additional documentation requirements. Next slide, please. I'd like to update you on the results of our prior year audit plan. We issued a report on design build change orders. That was part of the Finance and Audit Committee presentation this morning. We completed 2 pre-awards, which included evaluating the cost proposed for 14 separate architectural and engineering firms. When a qualified firm is identified, we perform a pre-award of each firm, and our goal is to cover 90% of the costs proposed. So the amount of work in a pre-award depends on the composition of the team. We also performed 3 master resource pool reviews, reviewing the billing rates proposed for the current fiscal year, and the elements of that would be labor and overhead for our architectural and engineering contracts. master resource pool is an identification of all employees who've been approved to work on the project by firm. And so this review was for Bakersfield Extension, the Merced to Madera Extension, and the Burbank to Anaheim project section. And so we looked at the current billing rates to ensure that what is currently being paid is based on actual costs. Next slide, please. We have two contract compliance audits in progress, and that's where we're looking at costs that have been billed to the authority and reimbursed by the authority. We've completed the Bakersfield to Palm Sale project section. We audited 9 years of costs. We brought that to the Finance and Audit Committee in January. And we've completed the Bakersfield extension section. That was the first 3 years of the contract. We've issued a draft report. The consultant is preparing a corrective action plan, and we expect that to be issued this month. The last element of last year's audit plan is a civil works certification internal audit that we've performed, and we're working to issue the draft report this month also. Next slide, please. So this is agenda item 3, our internal quality assurance self-assessment. In accordance with the Red Book, the internal audit standards, we have a quality system to ensure compliance with the audit standards. That system is documented in our audit manual. And elements that changed in the audit standards were reflected in the audit charter that we brought to the board in January. The audit standards require that we have an internal assessment of our compliance with the audit standards on an annual basis. And this year's assessment, it covered June of 24 through May of 25. That gives us time to perform the assessment and bring it to the board at the end of the fiscal year. We had a team of 2 associate level auditors. I take that back, that's a mistake. We had 1 associate level auditor and 1 staff level auditor review 4 completed assignments using the same process that the external peer reviewers will be using. So we're holding ourselves to the same standards. The internal peer review is no less rigorous than the external peer review. There were no instances of material non-compliance with the standards. However, they found 2 instances of partial compliance with the standards. For documenting where and how we complied with the standards, we've updated our processes and updated our procedures to address those 2 issues. Next slide, please. All right, so this year's audit plan has us completing our work in progress. The 2 interim audits should be done this summer. The Bakersfield extension, we're waiting for a corrective action response, as I mentioned. The Merced to Madera section, we hope to issue a final report in August. Auditors are finishing up their work and will be done by the end of next week. We have 2 post audits to evaluate costs reimbursed, and these are contracts that are at least 9 years worth of audits. We'll do a risk assessment to determine how many of the sub-consultants should be included in our audit. We'll start the Burbank to Anaheim project section in September, and then we anticipate, I'm sorry, this slide deck's not complete. We anticipate initiating the Palmdale to Burbank project section in January. We will issue the Civil Works certification audit. As I mentioned, in a draft, we anticipate issuing this month. There are 4 planned pre-award reviews, and the actual number of pre-award reviews will be based on the actual number of procurements. We follow the procurement plan. Pre-award reviews are a short duration, and they're performed in conjunction with the negotiation of the agreement. So the agreement isn't executed until the pre-award is done. So the audit team stops what they're doing, we do the pre-award, we aren't holding up the rest of the authority for an executed contract, and then we continue on with our audits. And then the last element of this year's audit plan is staff development for a team of auditors related to time-related overhead for construction projects. This is an area that we don't currently have expertise, and so we're going to spend some time. We found some training by the National Highway Institute. We're going to work with some staff from Caltrans who have experience in this, and then we're going to work with the people who are currently implementing the process to understand how that works. Next slide, please. Are there any questions for me?
Questions or comments for Ms. Rivera? Yes, Director Perea.
Yes, on your pre-award reviews,
Mhm.
what's the time frame of your work there before then it moves on to award?
Generally, we're scheduled for 3 weeks. And our goal is to have a single auditor work on a single subconsultant. The lead manages the assignment and takes care of the prime. On most contracts, we can handle that, one pre-award within 3 weeks. If there are a lot of subs on the major contracts where there's lots of subs, those sometimes take us 6 weeks because each auditor will handle 2.
Okay,
So it
of
all
course,
depends on how the
our
team.
concern is getting these contracts awarded and moving, so
Yes,
it's imperative that your work be done. as
yes.
fast as possible. Yeah.
Which is why the other audits are timed to come to a good stopping point. There's one for right-of-way engineering and surveying, I believe, that's in progress.
Mhm.
The pre-award is scheduled to start, I think, September 9th, and it runs through October 11th. So the auditors will find a natural stopping point for whatever their current assignment is. September 9th, we get a cost proposal. They work on that for those 3 to 4 weeks that they're scheduled, and then they'll go back to their assignment. So we plan our workload around the pre-award so that we're not holding anything up.
Okay, so if, just for example, if you had someone that was gonna go on a 2-week vacation and they're assigned something, that doesn't sit there for those 2 dead weeks and then it adds 2 weeks at the back end?
Correct.
Somebody else will pick it up and get it done.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Rivera? Yes, Director Schenk.
Thank you, Paula, as usual, very thorough. I asked a question that I ask of you every year, and that is your staffing and ability to get this work plan. In light of, the limited financial resources, can you just talk a little bit more about the staffing and maybe some needs that you might have in staffing going forward?
Sure. This year, our audit plan is built around our current staff of the 3 teams. We believe we have estimated the number of sub-consultants for the incurred cost audits accurately, but it'll depend on the risk assessment that we'll do specifically. But we've built our plan around our existing staff.
So you
our-
feel you
our-
have adequate staff?
Our
at
resources
this time?
are adequate for this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Schenk. Any other questions or comments? All right, members, this is a action item, so if we can have a motion to approve this 20, okay, we have a,
Can I
Motion to
just-
approve.
yes, go ahead.
We approve the resolution on agenda item
We're going to
2,
do that.
and we acknowledge, can we do it at the same time? We acknowledge the receipt.
I'm just going to acknowledge it on behalf of the board.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion, and was there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and second, please call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards,
Yes.
Director Camacho,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Yes,
Director Perea, Director Gilmetti, Director Escutia, Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item number 3 requires an acknowledgement of the board. So on behalf of the board, we acknowledge the receipt of the quality assurance and improvement program assessment. So with that, thank you very much, Ms. Rivera.
Thank you.
Okay, good job. We are now ready for item number 4, our CEO report.
Good morning. So the
Good
first,
morning.
it has been about what, 10 months that I've been on this
10 and a
project?
half.
10 and a half. All right. It feels like 10 years.
You've held up well.
Yes. So there was, back when I discussed with you at the previous board meeting, we were talking about several work streams that we are working on in parallel on all aspects of the project. That included several things ranging from stabilizing the funding all the way to reorganizing the program so that we can build faster and get to the population center sooner. One of the big items we had at that time when we discussed that is to reorganize the authority at the top executive level. I'm very, very pleased to report that that activity is mostly complete, with the exception of 1 or 2 positions. And the new leadership that we have now at the authority, the executive leadership, is coming from both public service sector and private sector, and they're all here in the room. So, Chair, if it's okay, I would like them to come and introduce themselves.
Sure, please.
All right, we'll start with Mark Tollefson, and then you guys introduce yourself one by one.
Thanks, Ian. Good morning, Chair Richards and members of the board. Good to see you all. So I'm Mark Tollefson. I'm the Chief of Staff here at the Authority. Now been here about 4 months. I have a really extensive history of state government, as you'll see on the screen. I previously served as under Secretary Omashakin at the State Transportation Agency. Worked for the Newsom administration as a senior counselor on infrastructure and fiscal affairs, as well as a deputy cabinet secretary. Then spent the previous 11 and a half years before that at our State Department of Finance. So I am here. I am responsible for leading up our executive operations office. My role is really to implement the vision of our CEO as well as the board across all of our offices in the authority. So I will turn it over to the rest of our team to introduce themselves.
I have a question for Mr. Tollefson.
Yes, please go ahead.
Mr. Tollefson, during your distinguished career in the governor's office for Governor Newsom, who was your favorite colleague to work with?
Oh, Mr. Williams, of course.
You don't have to answer that question, sir.
I was hoping you were going to mention me since we started together at Department of Finance. Good morning, board. My name is Jamie Metalka. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the High-Speed Rail Authority. Prior to this role, I was the Director of Risk Management and Project Controls for about 4 years. And prior to that, I was the Assistant CFO for about 4 years. I have served in multiple positions at the California Department of Finance. I worked in transportation, I worked in public health, and I worked in Department of managed healthcare as well. I started my career out as a corporations examiner doing auditing, just like Paula was doing. Worked my way up through finance, accounting, risk, and now to this level. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Jamie.
Good morning, Chair Richards, members of the board. My name is Jane Brown. I am Chief of Legislation. I've been with the authority for 5 years now. Prior to that service, I was with the legislature for a number of years, over 20 years. The last 11 years, I served as the Senate Rules Committee staff. It was a pleasure to serve that role. Prior to that, I actually served in the Maine state legislature, the state of Maine, and had 4 years of service with the state of Maine. So very happy to be here, love my job. And if I can be of any help to any of you, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Morning, Peter.
Morning, members of the board. I'm Peter Whippy. I'm the Chief of External Affairs for the authority.
Can you get a little closer to
Sure.
your microphone?
Yes, sorry. Raise it up a little bit. Chief of External Affairs for the authority. I joined the project in January. I'm born and raised in California, but come here via Washington, DC, where I spent over a decade in the House of Representatives working for several members of Congress, George Miller, so Lofgren, and committees, primarily the Committee on House Administration, where I led messaging, communications, outreach, and media relations for various issue areas within the committee's jurisdiction. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh, perfect. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Emily Morrison, I had the pleasure of meeting several of you at the last board. I'm new here at High Speed Rail, Chief of Contract Administration. I started my contract management career in the healthcare sector and then ended up moving over into the Department of the Air Force, where I worked at Mount Holm Air Force Base doing their base-wide infrastructure contracts, large IDIQ type contracts, architecture and engineer, and so on. I then eventually transitioned to Kirtland Air Force Base, where I was the contract manager for the nuclear weapons maintenance contract, along with the base-wide IT support, base supply. I then transitioned over to the Department of Veterans Affairs, where I managed their infrastructure, large-scale infrastructure contracts for California, Nevada, and the Pac Islands in the Philippines. And now I'm here at the High Speed Rail. So I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Morning.
Hi,
Ed.
good morning. My name is Ed Fenn. I'm the Chief of Construction. Started June 30th. So fresh to the team. I'm an engineer by training. Initially, the last 18 years or so, I've been involved in the rail industry, including a few startup projects, Sunrail, notably in Florida, also Brightline initial operating segment. Spent some time up at in Sound Transit, as well as Go Transit. So I've done it both on the contractor side and the agency side. So come here, I'm pleased to be here to help this program. Most notably, I worked on the Brightline West project, developing that project. So hopefully we can take some lessons learned from there and bring it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Good morning. My name is Sun-Shik Lee. I was recently appointed as the Chief of Planning and Engineering.
How many days ago?
About 10 days ago. Yeah. So I bring 29 years of experience in planning and engineering and the strategic delivery of complex transportation mega programs. Throughout my career, I have led and delivered large-scale rail initiatives, both in California and internationally, including LA Metro Expo Line, Caltrain Modernization Program, Etihad Rail High-Speed Rail Program, and the California High-Speed Rail as a consultant for the last 20 years. I look forward to contributing my experience to support the success of this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ramank Bharti. I'm the new Director for Risk Management and Project Controls, and feel quite senior given that I've spent 5 weeks with the authority now. Hello? Yeah. I'm a rail veteran, spent all my life working in railways. So 32 plus years of rail industry experience. I started as a mechanical engineer, managing train operations, new rail lines, rolling stock, new build, maintenance. Then spent another 12 years leading project control on major multi-billion-dollar rolling stock and signaling contracts on the East Coast. For the last 8 years, I've been managing programs, rail programs on the West Coast. Happy to be here.
Good morning. Bassem Alem. I'm the statewide regional director here at High Speed Rail. I think last month I just finished my 5-month period with High Speed Rail. Background, 32 years with Caltrans, started as a junior civil, ended up by ending my career with Caltrans as the District 8 director. District 8 encompasses both Riverside and San Bernardino County. And I was fortunate to work on the two biggest projects, Design Build 91 and DeVore. And also what's good about this job is I can leverage my relationship that I've established with Metrolink, Metro, High Desert Corridor, and actually Brightline. So I worked on all of those. I would say two big projects. After I finished Caltrans, I worked 10 years with various consultants as a consultant. And two projects that come to mind that I worked on upon the request of SBCTA was RPRP, Redlands Passenger Rail Project, 9-mile project that connects downtown San Bernardino to the University of Redlands. And then finally, the I-10 Express Lanes, a very controversial project that I was asked to try to help in and try to close the project and deliver it back on schedule. So I'm very, very happy to be part of this team. Thank you.
Tom, it's finally happened. You're full time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I'm back. So, Tom Falens, I'm the acting chief counsel. And as the slide shows, have worked for the state for 45 years. And I'll have to tell you a story. I was talking to Jamie Metalka, our chief financial officer, and mentioning to him that I started with the state in 1980. And he said, boy, that's really an important year. And I said, don't tell me, is that the year you were born? And he said, yes. So it kind of puts it in perspective. But I came to the authority in 2011 as the chief counsel and worked in that position to 2019. And then prior to that, I was at Caltrans for 31 years, 10 of which was as an engineer and the rest in the legal division, leaving there as the deputy chief counsel. So it's always been a pleasure to work with all of you and the program, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you for asking me to fill in, Ian. Happy to do it. And you know, it's a great group, always has been, but you have a really strong team, and you know, I think we're going to do great things. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, and I am clearly not Masa McManus, but did want to introduce her. She's our Chief Administrative Officer. She leads up all of our administrative activities within the authority. She's been really instrumental in helping to recruit and hire the amazing team that you just heard from.
Thanks, Mark.
Good morning. I'm Patty Neisonger. I'm the Chief Information Officer. I came to the state after 30 years in private service, private sector, I should say, in 2008 with Caltrans. I became the Chief Information Officer here at High Speed Rail in January of 2017. So I've also been around a little while. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
And then last but not least, we have Carol Damon, who is our Chief of Strategic Communications. She has over 30 years of experience in the communications field. Fortunately, she wasn't able to be here today, but I think as Ian mentioned, you know, this is our new leadership team here at the authority. We're really excited to have everyone on board. We have about 3 additional hires that we're still working through. We're getting very close, but hopefully by the time our next board meeting comes around, we'll have some additional news for you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Tom, just with Carol, it says served Governor Gray Davis. First of all, his name is misspelled, but there was question about who served who. So just beware with Carol. We served her.
Well, welcome to all of you. And so it's a great team. And it would be remiss to not to recognize who put this team together. So Ian, we couldn't thank you more. The talent that you have put on board with your team, I think is exactly what this project and this authority needs to move it forward. So for all of you who came here, there's one thing do need to know about. Inside the front door at the authority, if you'll take the chalk, stand up against a wall and put it right above your head, and then we're going to measure it in about 6 months. So Peter's a tall guy right now. I'm not sure where he'll be next, but it's always interesting to see how we grow. So at any rate, we can't tell you how happy we are that you're here. It was a monumental task for those of you who know what it takes to get people hired at the state of California, the process you go through. I think, Ian, you put together the exact team that you wanted to put together at the outset. Ian has also got a mark on he's already about 4 inches shorter, I think, than when I first met him. But at any rate, for Mark, Jamie, Jane, Peter, Emily, Ed, Sun Si, sorry for that, Roman, Benson, Tom, Masa, Patty, and Carol, welcome from all of us on the board of directors. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next, the most critical topic that we are currently working on with the administration and the legislature is stabilizing the funding for the program. And we know, and everyone knows, that there is a May revision in which there was a proposal from the administration of using cap and trade, cap and invest as the source to provide stable funding for X number of years. The proposal that went to the legislature was $1 billion for over 20 years. In the language, for us, technically, that means 15. So that's a positive news and a step in the right direction for the program to be able to bring in the private sector and have discussions with them to use this type of funding source to advance the program. It is not, I would like also to mention that it is not what we needed, but it is moving in the right direction. And I'm hoping that when the results and the legislative session is over and the results are in, we can get a better dollar amount for longer period of time. All what we are doing by executing that approach is building in all directions sooner and faster because it stabilizes for private sector a possibility that the state is securitizing the funds so they can go and advance financing the program. And when we looked at that, as we update, if we do something different than what it is here on the table right now at the legislature, we could build Bakersfield to Merced, Bakersfield to Palmdale, and Bakersfield to Gilroy, connecting north, south, and to Merced, somewhere in the time frame of 2039, if what we were asking for gets realized. So the good news is it's moving forward. We would like to have even better news that the dollars are different and the period is longer. So that action is moving. I'm personally meeting with anyone who would like to have a discussion with us about our approach and the strategy at the legislature. We are more than open to discuss and meet with anyone at any time. During the review of the program, I came to realize that we have several other issues that were impacting the program in a negative way. And those were more related to not how to construct or build. It was more about regulatory stuff that was getting in the way of how we should advance the program. So what we got there was we didn't have any jurisdictional authorities over how fast we can move the utilities out of the way. We didn't have special courts and appointed judges to process our right-of-way imminent domain cases faster. So we were stuck with one judge somewhere in the Central Valley who was mostly not available. That impacted the program significantly. So we are asking now the legislature to help us in streamlining these actions that I would say will help significantly in two ways. One, if the utilities owners have some time frame to get their stuff out of the way, that will give us schedule certainty. So we can actually say, if we say that, hey, we will finish this work in 6 months, and we spend 8 months just to get one cable out of the way. I have personally seen cases where we have to pour concrete around the poles that are hanging with one fiber optic cable, and that stopped the entire bridge construction for 2 years. So that's unacceptable for us, for taxpayers. We should not allow that. And my ask is to legislature is to help us in drafting jurisdictional powers for us, because it is a real waste, the way we were dealing with the utility owners. And all same is with the right-of-way acquisition and eminent domain cases. We are asking for appointing a special court in Sacramento and appoint a couple of judges who can process our cases faster instead of years and years and sitting and waiting. Because what happens with these two things, if they're not solved, the schedule then becomes at risk. So schedule becomes at risk, consequently, cost then changes. Every year we have inflations of 4-5% more. This gets delayed because of these two issues. The schedule becomes unstable, then cost and budget also become unstable. So we are asking our legislative partners to actually help us in solving that. Now, same applies to the environmental permitting reviews. Without getting into details there, that's another area that I came to find out that we lost a lot of time. A lot of time. I'm talking about years because of those permitting processes. Again, that is a State Department to another State Department. We need to solve that and streamline that process of reviewing. The other thing that we did our industry event in January, and since January of this year till today, we have been constantly in conversations with private equity investors who have shown extreme interest in investing in the program and advancing it. So what we came to realize that we have this existing bill, SB 198, that limits of where you can build. So good news that I said earlier that we are getting $1 billion for 15 years. Then we can finance it. But this bill prevents from building anywhere other than Merced to Bakersfield. And if I was to say, if we need to bring private sector with innovation and good ideas of how to build sooner, better, faster, then we need to open the Central Valley and connecting both towards Palmdale and Gilroy as well. So we are talking to the legislature to help us in modifying the language so the program opens up a bit. So the private investors, when they come in, at least they have flexibility to say, okay, we will do this sequencing in this order in order to connect population centers quicker. And I'm getting a lot of support on that. So those are the legislative actions that have significant impact in improving the program delivery. I said 2039 is if we get all the funding we need for X number of years commitment from the state, we can build the current program, the 171 mile, and then we can also build towards Palmdale and Gilroy by 2039. So that's the good news part. We know where we are going. We know what we need. At this point, we need some help in getting these actions over the finish line with the legislature.
Ian, may I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Martha.
Yes, with regard to the streamlining the efforts on environmental review, it's my understanding that high-speed rail was exempt from doing CEQA EIRs, I guess, on a going forward basis and I assume that that was part of the budget agreement. And so therefore, I assume that language must be contained either in the budget or in the two bills. I forget the numbers that were basically the budget bills. Is that your understanding that we did get that exemption from environmental review?
We did get that for the CEQA process for our new facilities. That's true. When I'm referring to other permits that are during construction that we need from different departments at the state level, that is where the challenges are.
All right.
Yeah.
And I actually do think that especially the idea of having a special panel of judges to deal with eminent domain cases, I think that's a brilliant idea. So if you're talking about legislative actions, the legislature is going to recess for summer, I think in 1 week. And then they come back in August and all they do is vote on the Assembly or Senate floor. So are you anticipating doing this now at the end of this legislative year? And you could do it, you just have to do some parliamentary procedures. But are you anticipating doing it now, or are you anticipating discussing this now in anticipation of introducing the bill in January?
I'm discussing right now and informing them all the issues and challenges we have on that. If they could do it before January, we definitely would appreciate that. But if not, we are okay even with January because some of it we are already building into our schedule and cost. But I wish to have, my ideal world is that it is done before January.
I understand. So therefore, and maybe your legislative people can answer specifically, but right now is the time to negotiate budget trailer bills. And whatever trailer bill is identified for, say, transportation, you can drop the language there for high-speed rail, and it will be voted upon pretty quickly this year, either in August, and take effect almost immediately. Is that what your people are doing?
Yes, yes. And I'm personally even discussing that to have it in the trailer bill. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And if I can interrupt for a moment, Member Carrillo.
Yeah, just to give you an update, the language in SB 445, which is the winter bill, went into print today. And we did have those conversations earlier today, my office and his office, because originally I believe that it only included the line from Merced to Bakersfield. So in having a conversation with him, we asked that the entire line be part of that bill, not just that first sector. So yeah, that's moving forward. Yeah.
This is great update. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Excellent.
And just to follow up on what Martha Scuti was talking about, do you also have language for these other issues?
We have given high level, like 4 or 5 lines on what we need, because that's what I was asked, is like, hey,
To
give
do
us some
that.
idea and they will do the write-up themselves.
Let me ask, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because I know that if you have the actual language that you're looking for, or at least something close to it, it just makes that
So when
so much easier.
when the bill that we 445 we said, right? And so that's the Senator Scott Wiener's, yeah.
Uh-huh.
The language came to us, we reviewed it, we made a lot of markups and sent it back, and that's the back and forth we are having since last week. So that one hopefully will take care of at least 3 issues that we have. I have been discussing with Senator Wiener myself several times. So they have written the language, that then people provide feedback, and the feedback that we received after the edits, it was not in line with what we were looking for. So we had to redline again and send it back to the senator.
Okay, but you're working with language, so
Yes,
that's great.
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And if I can just add one other thing, for Tom Flens, my recollection, and if you could look into this, especially if I'm not accurate, when the authority was granted the NEPA authority several years ago, I believe that we could have moved forward at that time on future environmental documentation with just NEPA as opposed to NEPA and CEQA. But I think that at that time, the board chose, and this was at a period of time where there were substantial numbers of environmental litigations going on, that we determined at that point we would continue doing NEPA and CEQA. But I think that we had the authority to just do NEPA. Can you, is that correct or not?
No, we never were in a position not to have to perform the NEPA, the CEQA, I'm sorry, the CEQA. What we received for some particular facilities in the Central Valley, the heavy maintenance facility, we've gotten an exemption for that. And most of the time, the CEQA exemptions are targeted to particular projects or elements of projects. And then the other way is there's statutory exemptions. And so if you fall into that exemption, one example might be a traffic signal, for example. So you have to get a specific exemption. We didn't have it for CEQA, and we still have to do NEPA. It's just that we're the lead on NEPA in place of FRA.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have one last question.
Yeah, just Director
Yes,
Gilmedi,
of
go
course,
ahead.
after.
Yeah, my recollection was that we got a NEPA exemption because we were doing CEQA.
Well, we're having to do NEPA, right?
Yes.
We're
we
having
have
to do NEPA.
We're the lead on NEPA instead of FRA. That was assigned to us from FRA. Just that happened with Caltrans many years ago. And then we also have some responsibility for other connected transportation projects. The Los Angeles train station there, for example. So we're acting in the shoes of FRA, Federal Railroad Administration. So we have those responsibilities. But that can help with speeding up the process because we're more in control of the pace and the resources applied. Whereas before, when FRA was the lead in the NEPA, we had to rely on their management and resource loading of the effort. So we have more control of that, and we felt we wanted to have that authority and asked for it, and we were granted it, and we used the Caltrans example of them having to do that, them having done that some years earlier, and it seemed to improve the speed in which transportation projects were delivered.
Martha, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going back to the slide that Ian produced earlier that has the list of all the issues that still need to be addressed. And basically, since, I come from that environment of the state legislature, I always get worried that we rely perhaps too much on this and not prepare for what can go wrong. And so I'm hoping, and I would like to request, Ian, that his staff get ready, that if we don't get every single bullet point here that you need, as well as future, that we start preparing right now a legislative package to introduce come January. And not only from the policy perspective, but also a budgetary strategy come January. So that in January, we have authors already lined up who want to take up, our bills. And I hope that Mr. Carrillo will be one of them, as well as others. We have a whole legislative package, ready to go come January, as well as concurrently a budgetary strategy. Because many times when the bills die in policy committee, if we do something very quietly through the budget, it still gets done. So I really would love to see, I myself, out of personal interest, I would love to see your legislative strategy for January, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Absolutely, we will do that. I mean, some of these bills are moving now, as Director Carrillo was saying. So yeah, we'll be ready for that for January as well. That's a good comment there. So next topic is the update on our engagement with the private sector. When I say private sector, meaning investors who are interested in helping us to get better awareness and understanding. And we are proceeding in that direction while we are not stopping anything that we have to do on our current schedule for building faster. We'll be buying all our commodities and materials this year, and we'll be awarding a contract for track builders to come in Q1, Q2 next year. While we are doing that, we are also engaging the industry from public-private partnership perspective. So I have our strategic advisor here, Brent Butzin. He has been on the program since I came here, maybe the week after. So introduce yourself and then give us an update.
Great, thanks, Ian. Yeah, Brent Butzin. I'm with Nosman on the consulting side and commercial strategic advisor to Ian and the authority team. So that last discussion was actually a very good foundation, I think, for why we're talking about this now. As Ian mentioned, we started broad-based industry outreach back in January with the industry forum. At that time, it wasn't limited to, just potential private investors. That was just a small part of it. But, the discussions have continued since then, especially in focused areas where the authority has kind of things coming up in the short term, and we really want to get that feedback. So related to P3 public-private partnerships, but also track laying systems and those shorter term priorities. So obviously the last discussion with the funding changes in the governor's budget and the related proposed legislative changes, that kind of builds up to one of the opportunities now to go back out to private industry and seek their feedback. As well as some other things that are important for them, the cost efficiency reviews, the new organization itself, the new vision, the new approach, and the new operational modeling, both ridership and O&M costs and revenues that will be coming out in the supplemental PER. This is all good information. It makes the time right to go out to the private sector. So we have issued, it is currently live on the streets, a request for expression of interest, the RFEI, to the private sector and financial institutions for feedback on public-private partnerships broadly and kind of approach to the program. The feedback we're seeking, it's pretty open, but it's also much more targeted than past RFEIs and similar endeavors that the authority did years ago. Because we're looking at benefits and challenges of how we could package, really how we would bundle and the opportunities in bundling remaining portions of the program. Could be into one or more contracts, but really the goal is, okay, with this new framework, with this new level setting, what are the opportunities for private investment? I think you've heard Ian say that a number of times. Our focus on the feedback we want is obviously on how do we save costs, how do we accelerate delivery of the program, and what are the related commercial and financial requirements that make that possible? I think we know that one of the legislative proposals is to make changes that would allow the authority to securitize the revenue stream from cap and invest, which we've never had the ability to do before. We assume that's a threshold issue, but necessary, perhaps not sufficient. So that's the sort of feedback we're going to be looking for from the investment community. If we go to the next slide. So the opportunities, there are some that are obvious and some that are perhaps less obvious. So we're asking, track and systems, but renewable power generation could be part of that. It could also be a separate opportunity from kind of the larger infrastructure opportunities, transit-oriented development, how we could monetize that potentially. On the delivery side of public-private partnerships, the civil extensions, the tunnels, how could we do those perhaps faster, cheaper, more efficiently? Other ancillary revenue opportunities. I think some of the early numbers we're seeing on that, a lot of potential and promise there to generate revenue, not just from ridership, but of course, passenger revenues are part of that as well. So what we're, with the new package that the authority is presenting to the world, what does the market and all the folks that we've been talking to, and hopefully a lot of folks who we haven't talked to who are going to now for the first time maybe see what we're doing and come to the table and give us their input. So the RFEI, as I said, it's already on the streets. So there's an address for questions. Of course, we'll answer any questions you have right now. And we included the link, so if you want to go read it yourself, it's there and available. So with that, any questions or anything else?
Questions for Ben? Yes, go ahead, Director Galmetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that one slide, the slide before, I think you had
Sure.
a bullet point number 4. Let me do it. That talked about design, build, financing. We've had, I have some questions about doing a design build program again. We got hurt very badly, I think, on the construction projects we're currently working on. So you're going to have to sell me that that's the right way to go.
I think, I need to put this in perspective. Design, build, finance, operate, and maintain is the true P3 partnership that you will be looking for. How they deliver. This is the composition of how the P3 partnership will work. How they deliver is going to be then up to them to choose the best competitive method to bring on the contractors that they want to propose. But this is just the method of framing, saying design, build, finance, operate, and maintain is in its entirety is the real P3. Go ahead.
But it could be any combination of those
Yeah.
things. I think that, design build is one delivery type, and on kind of the spectrum to full DBFOM, you could have DBOM that does or does not include private finance. So there's models for any combination of those. I think the design build experience that the authority has had would likely be very different from if you were to do a design, build, finance, operate, maintain, just in terms of the risk. One of the things we've asked for feedback on is the transfer of integration and interface risks. The design build doesn't even attempt to do that, but potentially, depending on how it was packaged up and the degree to which a partner was responsible for operations or maintenance of those assets, the term of that, how much life cycle responsibility they take on, they could potentially have a very different view on design and construction than what we've had in the past.
My comfort level is around design, bid, build. So we know exactly what we're doing. So I just want to bring that up front.
Understood.
And
I would reiterate that.
yeah, I think that, I
think
think
we're-
there's a pretty strong, I don't want to call it a consensus, but it's a pretty strong feeling with regards to the bid in between the design and the build. So I'm not suggesting that we're sitting here saying we know more than you do, but I would be certainly interested in knowing what would be the positives and the negatives of a design bid build P3 arrangement as opposed to just a design build.
Yeah, and I think we're happy to come back and have a more detailed discussion on any of that. There'd be a delivery analysis associated with anything that the board would see. I mean, the short answer on design bid build, the reason we wouldn't do that would generally be schedule.
Yeah.
So it takes longer to take something to full design.
Yeah, but I mean, we more or less heard that before. The challenge with design build was the liability that we ended up with, that we didn't contract for at the outset. And that's the big challenge that we would have in trying to understand how this could work in a different model than the way it had worked for us.
Yes, I think we should bring that back to you.
Yeah.
In a P3 world, saying that you bring a partner in who brings all the consortium in, that is all vertical delivery of every aspect from engineering,
Right.
planning, construction, startup, testing, commissioning, operations, and maintenance. We leave that flexibility in the program so that they can do the innovation and they can come with better ideas to build faster. Though I think we are having a discussion on, if we were not in the P3 world, how do we procure future civil work packages? And the experience from the past is what is driving our conversation now.
Exactly.
In the world of P3 is slightly different. I think we should come back and explain that better with the analysis on how it works. And we'll take that action.
Okay, thank you.
And Ian, I would add too, P3 or not P3 is not, we still have to deal with kind of the larger early work strategy that I know you've heard about, right away in utilities. It doesn't solve that.
Right.
So it's in all of the above.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Ben.
Yeah, one question, Tom.
Yes, go ahead, Director Camacho.
I think what Jim was referring to is a design build, just the ones that we have in CP 2, 3, CP 1 and CP 4. And I think we've had a horrible experience with those contracts, and we continue to pay for them. So sometimes it's better to do the delay rather than spend the money. I would have a better time trying to justify a delay rather than saying we are 30 times over budget. So and that's just, I just wanted to reiterate what Jim said, because I don't support a design build either.
Right.
Thank you.
And of course, all got complicated because we didn't have the right of way. We
Yeah.
didn't have the environmental clearances. So I think we all around this table, and whether we were here at the time or not, the decisions were made in response to requirements of grants. And that drove the direction in moving this project forward to construction before I think any of us would have comfortably done it in any other setting.
Sure.
So the idea of not of entering into what we had to enter into without having the scope fully defined is part of the reason that the results have been what they've been. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Okay.
Next update. So we were talking in the previous presentation about getting ready to receive materials that we previously defined as commoditized materials in order to accelerate. Everything we will be discussing from here until we finish building tracks is always going to be about schedule and cost optimization. Nothing else is important for us more than that. So what we are doing now, like we said in the previous board meeting, is all the commoditized material that does not really require any input from any contractor. The rail is a rail and is going to be the same rail. Doesn't really matter. We are putting those procurements forward. We'll come to the board in August with that. And while we're doing that, we are also preparing a place where we can store all this material, right? So in January, if you all recall, we were with the governor where we did the kickoff of our railhead project. It is in progress and we have a lot of good news there. It is staying on schedule for what we wanted. And I have Basim here who will give us an update because he's responsible for me to make sure that construction gets done this year. Go ahead, Basim.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Basim Muallim, statewide regional director. Earlier, Mr. Walker talked briefly about the expenditures, briefly talked about the railhead update. So I just want to give you a quick recap. So the railhead project, as Ian mentioned, it's a storage facility, and it really marks the start of the authority's track and system work. This work started in January of this year, 2025. It's located, the railhead is located in the city of Wasco, and it's roughly around 150 acres that we, the authority, owns. It's about 10 miles of siding and storage track that will feed into the 150 acres. And it is, as we said, it's a facility that is there to receive all the various commodities, which is rail, tracks, ballast, OCS, and so on. So all those commodities will be placed and stored in the railhead. Second slide. So the civil work, as you can see in the slide, was completed 2 months ago, back in May. And what it is we put in some 6-inch base material so that we can clear the site, so that we can make it ready for the storage and the siding that we're going to be putting in there. We have partnered with BNSF to do this work, and they've really come through. They're working diligently, very, very hard. I reported this earlier this year to you, and we were in the planning phase, in the beginning phase. If you come now and look at it, it is amazing. So if you see the next slide, so far, you can see all the rail that we have placed, about 1.25 miles of track as of earlier this month, July 7th. And they're still ongoing. They're working 8, 10, 12 hours a day. If you come back in September of this year, it's going to be complete. So in 2 more months, we are on target to do what we promised that we were going to do. And again, it's a railhead facility. It's a place to store the commodities, store the materials. And ultimately, what we are going to do is we are working with BNSF to complete the design of the 150 acres. So once all the rail is placed in, all 10 miles of it is placed, then we are working with BNSF so that they can develop the entire 150 acre site with fencing, detention basins, side roads. We're looking at putting a big shed that can house some of the expensive materials like copper and so on. So all that work is ongoing, and we are on target to complete that. We are working with our procurement office so that we can have the commodities on site by Q2 of 2026, and to be followed, and the work will commence in Q3 of 2026. So it's really within target, within reach. I just want to emphasize that our charter, where we promise we're going to do things cheaper, faster, and more economically, I think the railhead exemplifies that. I think it goes along with that vision. We are in the driver's seat. We are controlling the scope, cost, and schedule for the project. There is no middleman, and there is no overhead cost. We decide. So with that, this completes my presentation. Thank you.
A quick question, Tom.
Go ahead.
Director Camacho?
Yeah, who's laying that rail?
BNSF.
BNSF.
Okay, BR. Thank you.
BNSF.
All right.
And they have their subcontractors on site, but basically they're controlling the work.
And one more comment on this railhead, so it's clarity, to just make sure that everyone understands. This railhead connects us to the freight line that is connected to the rest of the country. And so when we bring commodities from different states that we need, we don't need to put those on trucks on highways. And cost issues, emission issues, they're all getting resolved with this strategy to bring the trains directly into our own yard. We will have one here, and then further north in Fresno, we'll have another one. We are kind of going through assessment on that, and that will be the second railhead that we will use. Thanks, Bassem.
And just one more comment, I failed to mention that we're going to start the work with CP4, that we have completed the 22 miles, and we're going to head north. So once that's done, we're going to go to CP23, ultimately CP1, we'll do the whole 119 miles, ultimately the 171 miles. Thank you.
Thank you, Bassem.
With that, I would like to invite now Emily Morrison to talk about what's coming next to the board in August and what she has been busy doing for the last 3 months.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Chair Richards, Vice Chair Miller, members of the board, thank you so much for having me here today. So a couple of things we're tracking for procurement. We are proceeding with our multiple award task order contract in order for us to tap into small businesses down in the valley to support, the remaining construction work that we have. There's additional de-scope work off of CP4, along with work that will be occurring in CP1, CP2, 3. So putting a MATOC in place, having bench type contracts like the federal government does, allows us to fast track our procurement timelines. Going from a task order basis instead of doing individual contracts where we're doing the procurement life cycle, we're able to shorten timelines even down to 30 days for stuff as simple as pouring a concrete pad, putting up fence work, simple work that we also want to get out directly to these small businesses. To support small businesses in the local area, it helps us reduce costs by avoiding prime overhead rates, and it gets us the opportunity to do this faster. So we are establishing a MATOC. This is going to be a 5-year ordering period for this MATOC. The maximum typically is going to be a $15 million task order ceiling on each individual task orders. This is typically, again, modeling off of federal contracting, that bonding capacity for some of these small businesses. We want small businesses to want to participate in this. The plan, what we're going to do is going to be doing 4 separate pools. We're going to do a pool of large business contractors to allow us, when there is complicated work that we're trying to streamline, we can tap in, we can still utilize large businesses. That large business pool will still be subjected to our small business goals. So making sure that even when we utilize large business, we will still meet our small business goals for that. We're going to have 2 small business pools, one on the northern end on the alignment and then the southern end. Typically, what I've noticed is if you make the geographic region too large, some of those small businesses just don't have the means and methods to be going all the way down from Fresno to Bakersfield. So splitting that up, allowing them to compete in their designated geographic locations. And then lastly, we're going to be doing a utility relocation pool. This will allow us to go directly to the utility vendors that we have already pre-approved, PG&E and so on. Those will be able to go directly to them and ultimately fast track utility relocations. So kind of talking real quick about what is the MATOC. It stands for a multiple award task order contract. You know, it allows us to, like I said, tap into those task order ability versus large procurement. Cost savings, saving time. Yes, everything I've already said. Okay, next slide. Let's see, increased opportunities, capacity building. The other thing is it also helps foster relationships with the small businesses in the local area, helps get them excited to participate. Sometimes I think small businesses get locked out of being able to participate when they're competing with others on these, big prime contracts. The funding specifically, there's no funding allocation. This is a procurement mechanism to allow us to just streamline and go faster. So we're not looking at any additional funds or so on outside of what we would normally do for our capital and operating budgets. Next slide. Okay. Like I said, maintain high standards, build strong relationships, increase organization, and then continuous improvement. There is a little blurb of all of the things that this MATOC will include. It's pretty all-encompassing. We don't want to be restrictive. So some of the things that are listed are definitely not stuff that we have slated right now, but it's stuff to include, a possibility in the future. Removable buildings, construction, design elements, land surveying, geotechnical investigations, looking at, a variety of things, landscaping, fencing, specialty trade. Gives us kind of a broad brush, hey, anything we could think of, we can kind of put under that. Next slide. And then lastly, a really good mechanism that we have that I've done in the past for IDIQs that I put in place is on-ramp and off-ramp procedures. This is kind of very procedural, but just to address, sometimes there is difficulty with new small businesses in the area that had been locked out in the beginning because they weren't able to participate when the MATOC was established, or small businesses that essentially decided to go a different way, decided they don't want to participate anymore. By doing on-ramp, off-ramp procedures, it doesn't lock us into only certain small businesses for the entirety of 5 years. We can then tap new businesses to on-ramp them or on-ramp, off-ramp folks that are no longer interested in participating. I've posted here what our current schedule is as well. We did release the RFEI last month. We are reviewing those submissions this month. We are going to be posting the actual formal RFP next month with evaluation from September, October, and anticipated award December. Hopefully a little bit earlier, maybe time permitting, we can possibly see a November timeframe, but definitely before December, which will help set us up on track for, the railhead being ready to go, our material procurements ready to go, and start cleaning up that remaining D-scope work that's down in CP4 so that we can start laying track. Next slide. And then, wrapping in, this is our material procurements that we're currently working on that I am coming to the board for formal approval next month, is that we're looking to procure in advance the ballast, the concrete ties, the OCS contact wire, the OCS poles, the rail, and the fiber optic cable. the moral of the story is we are trying to avoid long lead items. What I've seen previously in contracts is you'll get a contractor on board and there is a 12-month long lead for an item that you need that's critical path. And you have the contractor on board and they can't do anything about it. So what we're trying to do is offset any sort of delays to procure, get contracts in place in advance. We are not going to be stockpiling mass quantities at the railhead. We are going to be getting enough quantity for each item so that they can do approximately 2 to 4 weeks worth of work, but also kind of scheduling and sequencing, you know, based on some of these lead times that we have up here to make sure maybe we need to order a little bit more of one quantity versus another in anticipation for, you know, longer lead times down the road. So ballast, concrete ties, contact wire, the poles, the rail, the fiber optic cables. We are going to be putting the solicitation out on the market starting there. These are all going to be separate contracts. So it's not just one big contract. These will be separate contracts that will start in August. We'll probably sequence them that they don't all go out on the same day, but you know, over the course of a week or two. And we're looking to get these awards. We can get these awards finalized pretty quickly because they're commoditized materials. There isn't long back and forth. And then we will start placing orders in anticipation based on what the lead time is. So in the event, if the rail is a 8-month lead time, we will make sure we place that order in advance to have everything sequenced for Q2 of 26. Do you have any questions on the MATOC and or the materials procurement? Again, I will have more information specifics for the materials when I formally come to you on the board in next month.
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
The MATOC, are those for professional services or are they construction? Or are they both?
Construction services, construction only. So for professional services, we are actually working on an architect engineer IDIQ as well. We're in the works, we're building that we are slated to have that essentially solicit that in toward the end of 25 is what we're currently looking at.
We're requiring bonding as well for construction, correct?
Correct.
Okay, how does an individual or a firm become a MATOC vendor and have his bond just sitting there waiting for work to come? Because then it's eating up his capacity.
So typically the bond, they're going to give us what generally they've been able to bond for in the past. When they present their bond, it's not being held at the whole entire, because that would be too many people with it. It's going to be when we put our task order out, that's when the bonding capacity is going to be based off of the individual task order. We're not going to have them maximize it at 15 million across the length of the 5 years.
Okay. Could I get a copy of this presentation that you just made to us?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I never did get a copy of that. So if I could get a copy mailed to me, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Thank you.
Nancy?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Henry.
Just to get an understanding of how this new structure is working internally.
Mhm.
I mean, first, thank you for the information. It's very, very helpful. How internally are you working with other directors or leadership team members that we met today? For example, our head of construction or our regional director. It seems to me they have a pretty significant role in discussion of all of this. How do you all interact?
Absolutely. So we have our new chief of construction, who's brand new as of last week, and along with our chief of planning and engineering, we've actually already discussed what a MATOC typically what we would be looking at. My involvement, procurement's involvement with chief of construction is also trying to schedule what we can put on the MATOC to help streamline. So right now, we've been kind of working with the folks with the remaining work for CP4 in advance before before we have our new chiefs here, but we are working with them. Typically, procurement works very hand in hand with engineering and construction to make sure we're all on the same page for what's coming down the line. Are we sequencing these correctly? And then making sure that, the MATOC is, and typically projects of this nature, small, I say that we have up to 15 million, but traditionally we're not going to be seeing projects 15 million. It's going to be 100,000, 200,000, 50,000. I've done task orders on a MATOC as low as like $10,000. It's just being able to that ability and flexibility and nimbleness to just get something done very quickly so that it doesn't delay any other, you have to pour this concrete pad in order for them to do X, Y, Z. That's doing these long contracts then just pushes this out further. I would rather just, call, hey, this is who we have on our MATOC. We send it out. People who are interested can bid and we can get this done in 30 days. Because they can come right out and, mobilize and we're done. So.
Well, that's really great to hear because, having been on this board since 2019, I know sometimes we had experiences where, we all talk, before or after meetings and sometimes the frustration of some of the administrative team was one silo wasn't talking to the other. And
Absolutely.
it created delays and, other just internal organizational issues. So it's critical. And I know, I can tell by the team Ian's built that you all are talking to each other and you understand the end goal. So, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Vice Chair Miller?
Just a couple of questions. That's a great presentation. On the, so let's say I'm a surveyor and I want to provide a bid. I can just pick one of the services that you're looking for, right? You're not asking for multiple.
Correct. We're doing some finalization right now of how, so typically what you would do is a sample project. But if I did one straight sample project, it's going to eliminate certain offerers versus another.
Okay.
We're really going to be focusing on qualifications, to vet these folks rather than
I
picking
see.
people off on price.
Okay.
I want to make sure we have a variety of contractors who would want to bid. They're not required. So if you have a land surveyor who gets on the MATOC, now generally a lot of parties that do are really small general contractors. It's gonna be the majority of them is going to be small, but you'll get land surveyors, you'll get people who do fencing, specialize in concrete. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that we can incorporate all of those folks when they are bidding on it and looking at their qualifications versus this is just one project. If you can't meet it, you're not eligible.
And so then when do you get to price?
When do you get to price? So typically it's just considered price fair and reasonable. Pricing is always negotiated at the task order level.
So that's when you'll do pricing.
Correct.
Okay. And then on your on-ramp, off-ramp, is it like a continuing procurement or how do you do the on-ramp?
So my traditional experience with on-ramp is that we reevaluate at a yearly basis to
I
see
see.
if we
Okay.
have enough folks to bid. Now, if there is significant market increase or there's a lot of vendors that are new to the area that want to bid, it's not any sort of set at a year we're going to evaluate. It's an ongoing. When I look at procurements, it's an ongoing process of market research. When you award a procurement or have a mechanism in place, it's not done. You're still constantly evaluating the market and whether or not that they are able to successfully participate. So I've seen something where you never on-ramped a contractor because there just wasn't much interest to add new folks. Or I've seen it where you had contractors on, essentially when the initial, they fizzled out, they didn't want to participate, and we had to on-ramp new contractors very
Got it.
quickly if we were getting non-participation from the vendors. And that typically looks like when we're putting out new task orders and we're getting 0 or 1 response, that typically indicates the pool that I have is not what I'm looking for and I can go back out.
Okay.
And I'm not restricting myself. Sometimes the federal government will have restrictions on the number of vendors that they will allow on a pool because they have a little bit of different sets of rules for guaranteed
Right.
minimums and maximums. What I'm essentially proposing is the goal isn't to eliminate as many people as I can. It's to get as much participation as
Right.
possible.
Okay. My last question is on the commodities.
Mhm.
That's another where you wait on price. You're just getting an eligible, or are you looking?
Commodities is price.
It
So
is
we're going,
price,
it is
okay.
price because commoditized materials, we need that price up front.
Okay.
We are going to negotiate that price on the onset along with escalation rates for kind of a cost control measure. Not all of the procurements are going to be the exact, so how we do the actual contract for rail is actually going to look different than the contract for ballast.
Oh, okay.
Because ballast based on, and this is more market information, but it's
different.
apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So those contracts are going to look different, but all of them are going to have pricing. We don't want to kick that can down the road for pricing because typically on that type, you can end up having massive escalations and or unreasonable pricing in the
Right, and so
future.
is that 5 years, like the other? Is it 5-year?
I have to finalize, so next month when I come to the board, we'll have a finalization on what that looks like.
Okay,
It depends on what our industry feedback is. Some contracts, you may only be able to lock in rates for 3 years. 3 years is typically the minimum, but we are shooting for longer, 5, 8, 10, or so on, depending on what market is willing to give us.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Great.
So this concludes the CEO presentation. Don't need to have any questions.
No,
um,
go ahead, Nancy.
the is that coming in August? I
Yes.
want to whisper it almost to you.
The supplemental update on the project update report that we promised, that will include all our bottom-up estimates, new ridership, new schedule, conditionality on what we talked about, the 4 legislative actions that we need. Everything should be ready by end of this month of July, and
Okay, thank you.
available soon.
Jamie?
Mr. Chairman, I have one.
Yes, go ahead, Director.
Yeah,
Correa.
just follow up on something Member Escutia had brought up regarding the legislative actions. And she made a great point, and I was glad that the Assemblyman was here to say he is going to be moving some of that information now. But I'm sure some of these things will not be moved until maybe the next session. So would it be our Director of Communications, not communications, but legislative, that will be preparing the action items for the next session?
Yes, and a lot of other team members with the Ledge Department. So what will happen is that when we put our supplemental PER out and these actions are not done yet, we will put those footnotes and let everyone know that these costs and schedule are tied to other actions. If those actions are not yet done, then we will need to update everything else again. Especially if I don't get the right of way or the judges or utility thing, then the schedule cannot be the one that we can commit to.
Right. Yeah. But I guess Member Escutia was suggesting, and it makes sense, that for those things that we can't get done immediately, that we start positioning for the next session.
Yes.
And we actually have legislation that's crafted, authors who are going to be moving the legislation forward for us. We need to know what that is and who's going to be carrying it and what we needed to start making it happen.
It will go through our ledge affair, chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when will we be able to see that as a board? In September, October?
Well, so the one that Director Correa was mentioning, that utilities and SB 198 and right-of-way stuff is already in
Right,
Senator
that's gonna
Wiener's-
happen now.
Yes. So then that leaves only the one SB 198 opening up. I have personally discussed that with the Senate and Assembly members up until last night. I'm hoping if that one doesn't get modified and changed now, I'm hoping that we can draft up the language for that for January. And we will have the draft ready for that for board review.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Jamie?
Yes, one item just to close out I'll just go straight to the last slide. Per our board policy, we have a responsibility to report to the board when we utilize contingency greater than $25 million. We've done that on CP1, a design services impact resolution claim change order 607, which is very timely considering the conversation that we've been just having on the lack of jurisdictional authority with third parties and utilities. This change order settled all disputes and claims related to additional design services, increased engineering support during construction and design overhead related costs incurred by TPZP, our CP1 design builder, to keep the job progressing due to excessive third-party comments and prolonged design review processes beyond what could have been reasonably anticipated at the time of bid. This resolved $33.5 million. The claim came in at $57 million, so we did a fantastic job of solving this at a 41% reduction. It has no impact to the substantial completion date. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Jamie on that? All right, Jamie, thank you. Ian, you're done.
One last comment on what Jamie just said is, so we are driving, you heard from the team, all our chiefs here, a different level of how we are organized now, different than before. One important thing that Director Gilmeri was asking about is the schedule of completion of the construction that is currently ongoing. That is something that we deal with every day to make sure, here is our goal. Our goal is to start laying tracks next year at some point in time. By the time we do that, we want anything related to the civil works that will stand in the way of laying tracks be out of the way by the end of 2026. And that is what I discuss with the executive leadership of the contractors myself, almost on a weekly basis. That is the goal. That's where we're going to go. When we start laying tracks, the civil contractors by that time should not be in the way. And we are driving it in that direction. And so that we can do the 120 mile as fast as we can. If we put all the right mechanisms in place, we can do somewhere in the proximity of a mile every day or two. So that's the goal. And that's what our team is driven from, is getting the track laid as fast as they can. That's the last comment I have.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Director.
Can Jamie go back to the previous slide, because it pricked my ears, because I think it mentioned change orders.
Yes.
All right, change order. And this is for 33 million.
Yeah, 33.5 million, our CP1 design builder, Tudor, Perini, Zachary Parsons.
Is that the only change order we're gonna get from these Tudor people?
Well, we cannot tell you that.
Well, okay.
For now,
then-
this is
okay,
the only
o-
one.
Okay, well, then let me just put it on the table then. And I might make this into a motion. I would love to see it for whether CP1, CP23, CP4. I would love to see all the change orders that are out there outstanding. And for what amount? Because I would like to find out what we are in the hook for. Can that be done?
No, we literally, I mean, change orders are not something that is an agreed amount. The contractor proposes occurrence of an event that they think is a change, then it goes through the whole lengthy process of back and forth. And it sometimes is denied. The other times, it's a different number as the outcome if the authority team recognizes that the change order legitimacy is not exactly how they present it. So we just don't have that. Yeah.
No, you do know exactly how much you're in the hook for. I'm not asking for you to stop your negotiations. I'm just asking for transparency and seeing what is out there.
Can I clarify? I'll take a shot at it, because just through my own lens here. Board member Escucha, change orders they're not invoices. They're just, the contractor is saying, we believe there was a change in scope of work, and this is what it looked like, and this is what it costs us. And then the high-speed rail CEO and team looks at that and decides if they agree, disagree, but it's not a bill, and it's not an invoice, and it's certainly not an agreed upon amount of money that high-speed rail will pay. So there's change orders happening all the time and being submitted, I imagine, very fluidly to high-speed rail. And then the team is constantly looking at them, constantly negotiating them, constantly accepting, rejecting, etc. And that's just a very natural and complicated but normal part of it. And that's why I think it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to just lay out here's all the change orders, because it's not accurate reflection of what we are on the hook for in any way.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I'm trying to promote you now.
I'll take it.
Woman.
No, I will not take it. I will not take it.
Thank you, Board Member Cohen. And by the way, my last name is pronounced Escutia, not Escucha, Escutia. That's a problem I've been having with our chairman for years now.
And I love you for it.
I want to blame the chairman, but I know better.
Yeah, please. I understand what you just have said, and I'm not a neophyte to this issue. I was a chairwoman of the Alameda Corridor Transportation Committee, that created that huge thing. So I know what change orders are. And frankly, I know that it's like being in quicksand. I know it's constantly changing. And I know that for right now, what the contractors are submitting are what they think is like, in a way, they're putting guardrails, they're putting limits as to, and I understand that it's going to be negotiated down. It should be. Unless the change order is truly legitimate. And I understand that for purposes of time delay, in which we are at fault, that's legitimate. What I'm just saying here is that I would love to see a discussion. Not, obviously it's not a bill. It's just, I would love to see a discussion as to what is out there that contractors think that they are owed additional money for. I would love to see that. I'm just asking this on behalf of transparency, and I frankly think that no one here in this board should deny access to that information, at least to me. If you want me to see it privately, I will. I frankly believe that a board that is very informed about this, as an entire board, is an informed board, and an informed board is a good thing.
And you're making all good points, Director. And I'm not going to say your last name because I don't want you to get on me again.
Scutia.
I work on it, I promise. We're not in a position to do that. I think you said something that is things that are being worked on. You certainly can have a brief with our CEO, because it's just changing and fluid. So he can tell you what he thinks at that day. But I think that's really because it's dealing with all kinds of things. It could be potential litigation in the future or impact negotiations and that sort of thing. But I think, as you say, you have every reason and right to know those things. But I think that if we can deal with that at this point, and with any board member, they can contact our CEO directly and have that discussion with him. Certainly, certainly
Oh.
the
So
board
you're
will.
basically saying that if I want to do a motion, it's out of order. That's what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't say that a motion is out of order. I think what you suggested is the right approach to this, to get the information that you want. And if that leads to a motion later, I would certainly consider that and move it to the board.
All right, I will contact the CEO privately. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you, Ms. Cohen, Assemblywoman Cohen. Thank you.
You
Thank you.
are welcome.
Thank you, Senator.
Tom,
Okay.
Tom,
Yes.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Going back to that slide again, you show it to be, I think, 33.5. Are those, when those change orders do come back to the board, is that after the fact, after it's been negotiated, and so we're just being advised of the amount?
Yes.
That depending
That
upon
doesn't-
what the
that-
total
that's
cost of the change order is.
Well, that's not what I understood when we voted for this, raising the limit from, I think, 5 million to 25 million, is that we would have approval authority on those change orders before, or at least to approve to move forward.
Yeah.
This after the fact doesn't do us any good at all, and yet we have responsibility for that.
I'm happy to go over the delegation of authority
Go
with you,
ahead.
Director Camacho.
Well, I know what the word, I was made aware of the award that Brian put in afterwards, but that's not the spirit and intent that we made that motion to raise the limit.
All right, let's do two things. One, let's let Jamie go ahead and explain what the current delegation of authority is. Secondly, if we want to make those changes, let's agendize that and move forward on an agendized item to do that. But why don't let's be clear about what what the delegations are as of today.
Yeah, Chair Richards, I think that's a great idea because the current delegation of authority allows the CEO to amend a contract up to any amount that is approved within the program baseline. Now, the program baseline is authorized by the board as we come annually and ask for a budget for the program. So this item that had come here was 33.5 million. So it exceeded a $25 million threshold, which required CEO reporting to the board when that is triggered. And that is in section B of the delegation of authority. However, up to $100 million is where that stops. A $100 million change order or above has to come to the board for approval.
And that was the result of legislative action, right?
That piece was, yes.
Right. Okay,
Well, let me just add something then to that.
sure.
So if for some reason, not that the staff would do this, have $25 million or up to 100 million, they could bring to us 3 change orders, all below 100 million, all for the same thing. Let's just say for 95 million, one change order, another one for 94 million, another one for 99 million, so that it all reaches, or it doesn't reach the threshold, but it's been done in the past. And I don't think that we should allow for that.
I can mention something to the fact of
Go
this.
ahead.
The one that we brought, okay.
I mean, this hypothetical situation is not gonna happen. This is why we have this team. Director Camacho, I mean, this scenario you presented may have been practiced in the past. That is absolutely not allowed in the new team and new environment. I don't anticipate that these leaders that you heard from today are reflecting anything from the past. I can assure you that that practice has been gutted out from the organization entirely by
Thank you.
myself. Yeah.
Thank you. Tom, I would like to have it agendized though for the
Sure.
next meeting so we can have a
Sure.
discussion and a vote on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, in the interim, let's talk about it so that we can get the language for the agenda.
Very good.
Okay, great. All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes, Director Williams.
I just wanted to say that I definitely appreciate the spirit and the need for us to be vigilant and fulfill our responsibility for adequate oversight. I think, on the other hand, this issue has been discussed and debated. We settled on a process that we are seeing play out right here. I'm happy to note, and I think if there's a better way to have these materials reviewed in advance, I was able to review this in advance. I knew this was here. If I had a question for staff, I was given an opportunity to be briefed on it. So I would just say that we have some really, and again, this is no disrespect to the questions that are being raised and the issues that are being raised. I understand that, and I think that's a good thing. But I think, just to preview, the idea that we would approve every single change order below $100 million would be time that this board should not be spending. That is perfectly within the purview of the staff to manage that. I would not be supportive of that. I think we have some big issues and some big problems to solve as a board. That's not relinquishing our responsibility to provide oversight where appropriate. I think we've landed on that, and I just want to comment, and I thank the staff for preparing us and providing these materials in advance and giving us the opportunity to review it and give us an opportunity to be briefed and have conversations about it ahead of time.
That is the purpose for the process that we've developed.
So
Okay, yes,
can I just
Director.
add to that? Because I agree with what Member Williams just said, that we do approve these policies. And particularly when we go into an arena where we're looking for private financing, we have to stick to the policies. And if we're not going to stick to policies, then we need to figure out a way of letting board members know that there's something coming, letting our partners know something's coming, particularly of a magnitude of now we want to change our change order approval process. I mean, I don't think that's something that can just be done by, I mean, I don't like the way that this is now evolving, because I do think that it's a process that we went through, and we have to have stability in our policies And if we have a question about that, we should maybe have a way of dealing with that in a process. If something major like that is coming back to the board, I don't support that coming back to the board, honestly. I mean, unless there's a reason, and Ernie, I respect you a lot. It's just, I don't want to be in the process of having to deal with contract disputes in front of this board. We used to get these letters from contractors, and then we would be right in the middle of the dispute. So I don't think, and I think we decided at some point in time that that really wasn't our role. Our role was more policy, except, something large, like 100 million. Your point about someone maybe breaking a change order down, I do want to prevent that. And I do think that we should ask for some clarification about, to just make sure that it's single subject, that we're not, trying to break apart change orders so that you don't have to come back to the board. Because I'm not quite sure how we deal with that, and that's a really good point. But I don't really want to come back to re-debate change orders. I'm just asking you, Ernie, maybe we have an offline discussion to
Sure.
take care of your concerns before we bring that back.
That's the purpose for wanting to have a conversation offline here
Okay.
in between now and the next meeting. I think that there's certainly nothing ever wrong with looking at a policy and determining whether or not there's any abuse. So I think abuse is really what we're kind of talking about. And so,
If
So
I could
maybe
add
we-
to that, Chair Richards and Vice Chair Miller, this single item here was comprised of 6 different items. We bundled it together because they had like subject matter, so that we
Right.
didn't do something like that. So just to make that clear.
So I think that, and I don't want to speak for Director Camacho, but what he's asking for is do you have anything written to prevent the idea of splitting things up so that we don't see something that should maybe approve?
I'll go back and look at our delegation authority that's below the one the board has. I do believe that we have, if in totality, an item gets to a certain value, then it triggers the delegation of authority. So
Right,
we'll go back and look at that.
and maybe have the conversation with Director Camacho about what that is.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, then maybe we do need to.
that's what I have in mind. with-
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Will do.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that and then we'll determine what we need to do, but or what we should be doing. I do think that we have a responsibility to take a look if policies that we've put in place are being abused. That's something that's quite clearly, I think, something that we have an obligation to take a look at. But if we're going to change a policy, that happens also. But it may be that we've got what we need already, but we need to just make sure, satisfy ourselves that there is not any abuse. And if there's been things in the past, that's the past. We've got a whole new team and leadership running the authority now. And I'm not even sure exactly as we sit here what the abuse actually was. I know. So let's just take a look and see if it was.
Okay. I was gonna say
Yeah,
there's one
we're
more.
done, Jamie. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
One
Okay.
one last comment, Tom.
Yeah, Ernie.
Just to respond to Nancy, I appreciate your comments and that of Director Williams, but I feel strongly enough to at least, for my own conscience, have this dialogue at the next board meeting. If I can get some more information from you offline, I'd be happy to do that, and we could talk through that.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ernie. Are you finally done? Thank you. Okay. We're going to quickly move through just a brief of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, item number 5 that we had earlier this morning. These numbers are for the period ending May 31st of 25. Our cash position is roughly, as reported in our last board meeting, a little over $4 billion, 4.2 to be exact. Our capital outlay budget for the month of May, we expended 128 million, of which 62 million were expenditures for the design build expenditures. Expenditures to date on this project from the time when it was being planned, long before this board was in place, or perhaps there was even a board at all. Total expenditures are about $0.4 billion, of which 76% have been expended by the state of California's taxpayers. I'm just going to jump over some things for you. With regards to labor in the month of May, the average daily labor on our project sites increased by 29 workers to 1,662 workers on average daily. On progress, 92 structures are needed for the 119 miles that are on construction. 54 have been completed, 30 are underway, and 8 have not been, underway, and 9 have not been started yet. On Guideway, there's 119 miles, obviously, 70 miles have been completed, and 27 miles are underway. 12 miles have not been started yet. On utility relocations, 1,572 have been completed out of a total of 1,826 relocations needed for the 119 miles. And in terms of right-of-way, there are only 6 parcels still remaining, of which 2291 were originally needed. 16, I'm sorry, not 6, 16, there were 2,275 that have been purchased and delivered. With that, that's the end of the update for the F&A meeting. I'm going to cautiously ask, do any board members have any comments?
One brief one.
Oh, my God.
Just one brief one.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegel's presentation, he indicated that he was negotiating with Brightline to extend the line from Merced to Sacramento. I hope he's not negotiating on the behalf of High Speed Rail Authority.
Well, we'll find that out next week or next month. We'll know for sure. Thank you, Jim. All right, any others? There aren't any. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into closed session. I don't expect it to last more than about 45 minutes at the most, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. So I'll be back and let you know if there's any action taken by the board. Thank you for your patience, and we'll talk shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Directors of the California High-Speed Rail Authority have completed its closed session. We have nothing to report, so this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.